All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a great week. Today, we're continuing our BCBA exam practice question series where we're going through the next set of BCBA exam practice questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out behavioranalyststudy.com. We offer 3 practice exams, a task list study guide, and our famous combo pack. We also offer a YouTube membership if you'd like to support us further. Questions, comments, let us know. Let us know when you pass your exam so we can include you in our Sunday shoutouts. Other than that, let's work hard, study hard, get to our questions. Question 1. Which of the following choices is true about the topography of behavior? All right, when we define behavior, we first observe behavior. When we assess behavior, what are we looking for? We're looking for topography, otherwise known as the form, or what it looks like. We're also looking for function, cause of the behavior, what's maintaining the behavior, why is that behavior happening? And then you can also look for magnitude if you so choose. But typically, the 2 most important things are going to be topography and function. In this case, the question is asking what is true about topography. Because remember, topography and function aren't joined, right? They aren't together. They're separate things. So if we're looking for topography, we're thinking about what does that behavior look like. Let's find something that's true about topography. A, the topography of the behavior typically indicates the function of the behavior as well. Don't make that mistake, right? Behaviors can look the same and function very differently. Behaviors can look very different and function the same. Topography and the function are rarely linked. B, the form of the behavior is more important than the topography of the behavior. Well, we know form is just topography, so B is trying to catch you moving too quickly, catch you off guard, right? Don't pick B. Form and topography are the same thing. Remember, we're methodically moving through our questions, reading each word carefully, analyzing, and then moving to the next answer choice. Don't need to go quick, right? Accuracy and fluency produce quickness. C, the topography of a behavior often reveals little useful information about the function of behavior. Yes, okay. Whatever the behavior looks like typically tells you very little about why it's actually occurring. How are we identifying why the behavior is occurring? Well, we're looking for antecedents and consequences. What that behavior looks like doesn't really tell us that. It just gives us a good way to identify it as we measure and change it. And then D, topography is typically more important than function when treating behavior. Of course not. Function is number 1. It's going to be the most important. It's what we need to identify early before we start treating behavior. So, which of the following choices is true about topography? Well, the topography of a behavior often reveals little useful information about the function of behavior. If you're conducting a multiple baseline design across settings, the second setting baseline would qualify as what part of baseline logic relative to the first setting? Okay. Very good example of a question that you need to slow down and you need to do all your work up front in the question. It's wordy. It looks complex. It's asking about baseline logic, which can be a little challenging. We don't talk about it a lot. So let's slow down and first ask ourselves, what is the question wanting to know? Well, it's asking about baseline logic relative to the first setting, and we're talking about the second setting. So the second setting qualifies as what part of baseline logic relative to the first. And that relative to the first is very important. So baseline logic is made up of what? Well, prediction, replication, verification. So we know we're using a multiple baseline design across settings. So in your head, picture multiple baseline design across settings. Let's say we have 3 settings. We're looking at the second setting relative to the first. So let's ask ourselves, what part of baseline logic are we looking at in the first setting? Well, we have our baseline, and we're going to do what? We're going to predict what will that baseline look like if we don't intervene. So in our first setting, we have our prediction. If we have our prediction in our first setting, the baseline in the second setting is going to do what? Well, it's going to verify that prediction in the first setting. The intervention is going to replicate the intervention, but the second baseline is going to verify our prediction of the first baseline. If you don't understand that, make sure you go back to Cooper, go to multiple baseline designs, and look at the image in the book. It lays out very clearly, okay, what we're talking about here. This is not the easiest question in the world. Okay? It really applies what you know, not only about baseline logic, but also multiple baseline design. Remember, prediction, okay? We're predicting this is what the baseline would look like if I didn't intervene. Verification, we're just verifying that prediction of the baseline. And then replication, we're replicating our interventions. So if you keep that in mind, okay, even draw it out if you have to. But you can see we predict our first baseline and then we verify it in our second baseline. So a second setting baseline would qualify as what part of baseline logic? Well, verification. Your client, Gregory, goes on a family vacation to Hawaii. Gregory brings you back a postcard that says, "Aloha." Are you allowed to accept the postcard? All right, going to hammer home the new gift regulations and rules and ethics. Okay, it's new. It's a big change to our code. It was a big point of contention before. Why can't we take gifts, et cetera, et cetera? You should know by now the new code dictates that we can take gifts up to $10 as long as they are not routine. So in this case, Gregory, your client, brings you back a postcard that says, "Aloha." Are you allowed to accept it? A, you should not, but you should accept it anyway to maintain good rapport with the client and stakeholders. We should never violate our ethical code for this reason. In this case, if you weren't to accept it, you need to train them and teach them and help them understand the ethical code. That's what it's there for, right? To show them, hey, this is what my ethical code says. I can't take it. You don't just violate the ethical code just to maintain this idea of good rapport. B, accept the postcard, but throw it away as soon as Gregory is gone. Well, no, you don't want to throw it away and you don't want to just accept it if you're not supposed to, right? Again, if you're not supposed to, you need to do your job and explain to parents, this is why I can't accept it. However, if you think the postcard is under $10, then you can accept it from Gregory. And most likely a postcard is going to be under $10, unless, of course, there's a gift or a gift card with it. But just a simple postcard, there shouldn't be any reason for you to not accept it. So if you think the postcard is under $10, go ahead and accept the postcard, Gregory. And then D, we always read all of our answer choices. D, you should not, and you should retrain the stakeholders on what is acceptable behavior. C is a better answer, okay? D is very strong. You just don't accept it outright. It's not the case. If you think it's under $10, you're well within your ethical code to take the postcard. C is our best answer. So are you allowed to accept the postcard? Well, if you think it's under $10, you can accept it from Gregory. Blaine has limited language and limited attending skills. Whenever he sits with his peers in a group, his RBT will sit 3 or 4 feet behind him. Every 30 seconds, Blaine will fall backwards, forcing the RBT to catch him and sit him back upright. If the RBT praises Blaine before 30 seconds, Blaine will not fall backwards. Most likely function of this behavior is what? Right. We need to assess this situation. Remember, when we are taking our exam, we're only using the information given to us in the question. We're not adding information. We're not bringing in personal information and personal experiences. We assess based on the information given. So we're looking for the function of the behavior. Right off the bat, what should you probably eliminate? Well, you should probably eliminate automatic at first, right? Because this looks very socially mediated, okay? Why? Well, we know the RBT sits behind him, and then Blaine falls backwards, forcing the RBT to engage with him. But if the RBT engages with Blaine before 30 seconds, the behavior doesn't happen. So if it was automatic, that social interaction probably would have no effect on the behavior. So now we're looking at tangible, attention, and escape. Well, do we have any indication this is for escape? Does it seem like Blaine is trying to get out of anything? No information is indicating he's trying to get away from anything or he's being allowed to get away from anything. All he knows is he falls backwards, forcing the RBT to catch him and send him back upright. So now we have tangible and attention. At first, maybe, okay, we could say tangible, but again, if we look at our information, there's no tangible in play. The most obvious thing here is going to be attention. Not only because when he falls backwards, the RBT has to catch him and set him up, but mainly because if the RBT praises Blaine, Blaine doesn't engage in the behavior. Essentially, the praise before 30 seconds is non-contingent reinforcement, reducing the MO for attention. So essentially, we're proving that the function is attention. Because if the RBT praises Blaine, and then Blaine doesn't engage in the behavior, Blaine's already got what he wanted, got his attention. The most likely function of the behavior is attention. A 3-year-old has just learned how to ask why questions. Now the 3-year-old is asking why questions nonstop to his mom and dad. Finally, the parents tell the 3-year-old that they must wait until a timer beeps before they can ask another question. Parents are increasing what measurement of behavior? If you deal with little kids who are verbal, you probably know this feeling. Constant asking of questions. Parents, not enough, right? It's nonstop. So, what they've done is they've implemented this timer system where the 3-year-old has to wait till the timer beeps before they can ask another question. So, the parents aren't getting rid of the behavior, they're just changing how often it's occurring, essentially. Okay. So, the parents are increasing what measurement of behavior? A, duration. Are the parents increasing the duration of the question behavior? Not really. It does. We don't know how long the question takes to ask. We just know they ask a lot of them. So duration isn't really playing a factor in this question. B, into response time. Okay, this looks pretty good. Why? Well, they know the 3-year-old is asking too many questions. So if the 3-year-old is going 2 minutes in between questions, they're setting a timer for, let's say, 5 minutes. They're increasing the time in between questions. Into response time is just time in between responses. So they're trying to increase the time in between responses or behavior or questions. Parents are increasing response time. Let's read all of our answer choices. C, latency. It can't be latency because latency deals with a single SD and a single response. Here we're looking at the question behavior over a period of time, so multiple responses. IRT is the better pick. And then frequency. Be careful with frequency. Are the parents trying to increase the frequency of the questions? No, they're trying to decrease the frequency of the questions. You have to be very careful, okay? Everything matters in these questions. So they're trying to increase time in between questions, time in between responses. Parents are increasing inter-response time. The proper way to implement a least to most prompting procedure is what? We just did our prompting video. Make sure to check that out in our Let's Learn ABA series. Very important, right? Least to most, most to least. They're ways to fade prompts. They're ways to transfer stimulus control. So we need to know the proper ways to implement them. In this case, we're implementing a least to most procedure. What is a least to most procedure? Least to most procedure has the teacher or the technician or the analyst using the least intrusive amount of prompts and moving upwards. Well, what is the proper way to do that? A, after assessment, provide only necessary physical prompts until the learner is able to complete the skill independently. Would starting physical prompts immediately after assessment be least to most? No. That will be, if anything, most to least. We're never starting physical if we're looking at a least to most prompting procedure. B, after assessment, provide a verbal prompt and then increase the prompt as necessary. Okay, this is better. We're starting with a very unintrusive prompt, a verbal prompt, right? But what's the proper way to do least to most prompting? C, after assessment, let the learner attempt the skill without prompt. If necessary, introduce the least intrusive prompt possible. Yes, this is the proper way. This is what we're looking for. If you're going to use least to most prompting, always give the learner the opportunity to attempt that skill without a prompt. And then if they can't do it, and if it's necessary, introduce the least intrusive prompt possible. And then D, after assessment, model the behavior until the learner imitates. Remember, after physical prompting, model prompting is the most intrusive prompt. So again, we're not going to start there. What we're going to do, at least to most, give the learner a chance to attempt the skill without prompt. And if necessary, introduce the least intrusive prompt possible. Which of the following is an example of a stimulus prompt? All right, remember we have stimulus prompts, we have response prompts. Response prompts act directly on responses, obviously. Stimulus prompts manipulate the antecedent stimuli in some way. So A, modeling. Is modeling a stimulus prompt or a response prompt? Well, ask yourself, when you're modeling, are you manipulating the antecedent stimuli? No, you're trying to evoke that response you want to see, right? You're acting out what you want to see. You're acting on the response. Physical prompts. Are you manipulating the stimulus? No, again, you're physically guiding the learner to evoke the response you want to see. Verbal prompt. Are you manipulating the stimulus? Again, no, you're telling the learner or you're giving the learner a verbal cue of what you want to see. D, positional. Positional, are you manipulating the stimulus? Yes, you are. You're moving the stimulus around the table, closer, further away, side to side. However you're doing it, you're manipulating the stimulus. Positional is going to be our stimulus prompt. A mom and dad can no longer handle the defiance from their 10-year-old daughter. Start trying everything they can think of to reduce the defiance and bring peace to the household, but the parents just become more aversive. And the behavior gets worse. Eventually, they resort to a punishment-based intervention. In this sequence, punishment-based intervention is typically referred to as what? Okay, a lot of stuff going on here. Long question. Slow down. Question is asking about this sequence and the punishment-based intervention. What will we refer to this punishment-based intervention as? Well, let's look at our sequence. First off, we have this defiant daughter. Parents just want to change the behavior, so they start trying everything they can think of to reduce the defiance. Unfortunately, parents become more aversive. Behavior gets worse. Very typical scenario. What happens is they say, well, okay, let's just go to a punishment-based intervention. They resort to this punishment-based intervention. Is this known as a last resort? Well, not in our terminology. Right? Last resort is not a term we know. Is this a default technology? It is. When you get a stakeholder who's tried everything and then they resort to these intrusive punishment-based interventions, they're going to default technologies. In this case, this punishment-based intervention is a default technology because they haven't really taken the proper steps to try something different. It's not an antecedent intervention, obviously, because a punishment is a consequence. And it isn't a functionally equivalent replacement because punishment-based interventions don't actually teach behavior, right? They just punish behavior. So when they resort to a punishment-based intervention after trying everything they can think of and only making things worse, they've resorted to a default technology. Which of the following is true about reactivity during assessment? Well, let's start with reactivity. Whenever you get a term in your questions, always define it. So reactivity is the person's behavior changes as a result of the way the assessment's being done or the observation, right? So question is specifically asking what is true about that reactivity during assessment. A, reactivity typically occurs when observation is obtrusive. Now, this word obtrusive simply means person knows that they're being watched, right? Or that their behavior is being monitored. So when observation is very obtrusive, when observation is very obvious, in other words, reactivity is typically much higher. B, self-management is typically the most obtrusive assessment procedure. That is true, of course, right? If you're self-managing and doing a checklist or checking yourself, you obviously know that your behavior is being monitored. And then C, reactivity effects are temporary. Thankfully, reactivity effects are temporary, meaning they're not going to stick around. So you should do your best to limit reactivity, but sometimes it's not possible. So what is true about reactivity? Well, A, reactivity typically occurs when observation is obtrusive or obvious. B, self-management is typically the most obtrusive assessment procedure, of course. And then C, reactivity effects are temporary. All of these are true, therefore D, all of the above is our answer. Great. Thank you for watching. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. As usual, questions, comments, let us know. Like, subscribe, work hard, study hard. See you soon.